The format.
Yeah, we're going to start. Right now, we're live.
Right.
Hello and welcome to Health Live at Seniors Today. We are delighted to have here with us Dr. Shivanshu Raj Goyal. Dr. Goyal is with the Artemis Hospital in Gurugram, and he has worked extensively in the field of respiratory medicine, tuberculosis, immunology, sleep medicine, and critical care. Before joining the Artemis Hospital in Gurugram, he has worked in the Sir Ganga Ram Hospital in New Delhi. Dr. Goyal completed his residency at the VMMC and Safdarjung Hospital in the Department of Pulmonary, Critical Care and Sleep Medicine under Dr. Suri, under Dr. C Suri, who was credited with establishing the first sleep laboratory of the country. He has presented his work at multiple academic forums on the national and international levels. Welcome to Health Live at Seniors Today, Dr. Goyal. Delighted to have you with us. We have requested Dr. Goyal, given the way, as they say, jis tarah se hawa hai, we have requested him to speak about overcoming respiratory disorders due to air pollution in and around our country. And, we have a group of senior citizens here, Dr. Goyal, and let me, before I ask you to make your opening comments, what's the scene in, you are in the thick of things in Delhi NCR. Are you, we were all used to wearing the masks because of COVID, but in Delhi, I don't see you wearing a mask now, but is it that bad? Is it what is the AQI now?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Maheshwari, for this warm introduction. Now, when we say I am in the middle of thick and thin, I feel we all are. Today when we are in India, it is all about a variation of the number, but we cannot say anybody is spared. India, the way rampantly the growth is happening, we are not bothered the way pollution is increasing. It could be just a number different in Delhi NCR versus Bombay versus Indore versus Calcutta or Chennai. But at the end of the day, most of the cities are equally bad in some way or the other. When you talk about the number, that's the AQI. That's a complex number which we generate out of lot of factors, which I'll talk about in my further talk. It's a thing which is a combination of PM 2.5 with PM 10 with lot of other gaseous particles along. It is not only one number. So I would say everybody, right from the newborn to an old age, everybody is affected by this problem.
So, Dr. Goyal, what I'll do is, as people are just walking into the room, what's the COVID scenario in a city like in NCR right now? Is there worry? We've had the festive season which has just happened. It's been a week after the festive season, so the incubation period perhaps has gotten over, and you are at a leading hospital in NCR. Do you see any telltale signs of perhaps some impact of the gathering without the masks, etc.?
Right. I would say this time, like the kind of surge we had in this second wave, like nobody has remained untouched out of it. But this time, we have had some COVID cases which have gone up as compared to the pre-Diwali time. But still, it is not a situation which we can match. There are not too many numbers. And luckily, most of the people who are coming in, they are mild cases. Not many severe forms, not many patients who need to be ventilated or anything of that sort. So that way, there is a saving grace. There was a sero survey done in Delhi NCR, which showed 97% positivity. So that is at least a possibility that even if you have COVID, you might not have a severe one. If that happens, at least we have a breathing space. But yes, people have dropped their guard. I don't see people wearing masks. We as doctors, we wear masks every time. Now I'm sitting in a room talking to you. That's a different scenario. But otherwise, people have just stopped wearing masks. People come to the hospital without a mask. I have to keep telling them, please wear a mask when you come to a hospital at least. But nobody bothers. The guards have gone down. That's for sure.
That's the unfortunate part of things. So over to you, doctor. Do you would you like to make a few opening remarks? And those of you who have questions, uh, please put them in the Q&A tab. As always, my request is please put your age and your gender so that Dr. Goyal would be able to give a considered response. Over to you, Dr. Goyal, for your opening remarks on the topic on that we have.
Right. So now when we talk about pollution, pollution is not something new. Only thing is that now we talk about it more often. Pollution is one problem that we are suffering from, and we need just one requirement. Pollution just requires one requirement from all of us, that if you fulfill that requirement, you are affected by pollution. And that one requirement is that you have to breathe. If you are breathing, you are affected by this air. It is so bad nowadays. To give you in numbers, we human beings, we breathe almost around 15 to 20 times in a minute. That is our breathing rate. So that it means we breathe almost 20 to 25,000 times in a day. It is such a huge number which we don't realize. By God's grace, God has made us a potential that we keep breathing without us realizing it. This kind of a breathing makes you inhale toxic and absolutely horrible air which is all around us. The air is macroscopically bad. Macroscopically means that you can't even see through the air. It is that bad. And when we call about a number called AQI, WHO says anything above 50 is problematic. Then you have got gradings. We in Delhi talk about 500, 700. There were times when it was more than 1,000. These are unheard numbers. These are numbers which are absolutely harmful. We think this problem affects only the lung. No, it affects each and every organ of your body. You name an organ and it gets affected by pollution. There are people who get strokes, there are people who get cardiac problems, there are people who get renal problems, people develop cancers, and you name anything. And it is all an outcome of pollution. Pollution is broadly divided into two broad categories. One category is the particulate matter, like the dust, and the other particulate matter which comes in the air, which we call as PM 2.5 or PM 10. And nowadays we also talk about PM 1 or even smaller than that. Then there are other gases like NO2, VOCs, and all these are various gases which are there in the environment. It is all because of a human intervention. We are the ones who have created all this. We are the ones who have absolutely for our own settlement. We have washed off our places. We have completely removed forests. We are in a rampant stage where we want to construct buildings, bridges, roads, and whatnot. We have absolutely spoiled the environment where a human can breathe or even think of living peacefully. We are in a situation which, in my opinion, should be considered a national emergency. It is not a situation where we should say that we should have more meetings, we should have more thoughts, we should have more suggestions. No, it is a proven fact that today we are suffering from a problem all around us where if you do not take an action now, you will not have any future to come. And I am being very clear on this part. We, like me being a lung doctor, I am very categorical on these parts. The kind of air we are giving to our kids, like I have a small daughter, I have a daughter, like she is just 5 year old. Like the kind of air which we are giving for our kids to breathe is absolutely noxious. These kids, once they grow, they are going to have all sort of problems. And we are going to ask them, did you smoke? Do you do some things? Do you have any problem? No, you do not need to smoke in this Delhi air, because I'll give you a small corollary. Uh, every almost around 20 p.m. 2.5 or 22.5 p.m. is equal to one cigarette. So just imagine when you are breathing air to the tune of PM 2.5 of 500 or 1000, imagine how many cigarettes you smoke in a day. I, as a doctor, don't need to ask anybody whether you are a smoker or not if you're living in Delhi NCR, because everybody is a smoker. You don't have any more liberty left for that. So this is where I want to start the ball rolling, and I'll be very happy to answer any kind of questions, any kind of doubts, what all we can do about this, what all are the remedies available, if they are doable. There could be some myths. Like I know a lot of people come to me with talks about air purifiers, lot of talks about air purifying plants, smog towers, and the government installing air purification systems on the footpaths and the roundabouts. We can discuss anything, and I'll be very happy to answer whatever to best of my capacity. But one thing is for sure, that we all have to step in, and very seriously step in, to understand the ill effects of pollution. COVID will keep coming. Some problem or the other will keep coming. COVID is just one kind of a virus. You can have some other virus coming in your way. One last thing before I stop my this word is, you know, air pollution kills more people than COVID has killed altogether. So just imagine that we give so much heat and importance to COVID, and nobody talks much about pollution. With this, I'll be very happy for you to give me anything which I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, doctor. But I must confess that you've painted a very, very grim picture of the way things are.
I'll be very honest. I've tried not to do that, but that is where the things are. That is the way the air is, at least in the major cities. It is beyond that. It is beyond what I'm speaking of. It is beyond more than that. I, as a pulmonologist, I am getting a 30-year-old person, never smoked, coming with a lung cancer, never heard of. Why? Because they are breathing this air. You need 20 to 30 years of exposure to carcinogens to develop a lung cancer. So earlier, when people were breathing clean air, so when they should start smoking or have tobacco, they should develop cancer by the age of 50 or 60. Now, without smoking, without anything, just breathe this air, and in the next 20, 30 years, people end up developing cancers. This is the harsh reality.
Doctor, let me ask you this question. How do you live in NCR, and where the pollution levels are very high, and apart from the fact that you interact with a host of patients, and you are in a medical facility, how do you brace yourself for? How do you and your family brace yourself given the pollution levels?
There is nothing. I'll tell you very clearly. I am one among everybody, like me or any doctor. We are all among the society, and we are equally responsible for this pollution. I'm not saying that I am not part of this pollution. I'm saying whatever we do, one thing is for sure. Let's talk about the what things what we can do in an everyday life. In an everyday life, I'll tell you. First of all, be very careful for the kind of AQI on that particular day before you step out. If you step out for an important work, you have to need your mouth and face to be covered. By covered, I do not mean cloth mask. I do not mean surgical mask. I mean there are specific masks which have a capacity to filter the 2.5 particles. So these are called anti-pollution masks. They are important. I'm not saying they have to be wear every day, but on a particular day when you know that your AQI index is very bad.
Doctor, can I ask you for a specific type of mask that you're talking about, anti-pollution masks? So this is not the N95 mask.
Okay. See, I'll tell you, N95 is not a brand. It is a technology.
That's right.
So N95 is a mask which has got particle size which will filter definitely all the pollutants along with the viral particles. But when you go for a walk, when you go for a jog, you cannot wear an N95 for the amount of resistance it creates for you to breathe. That is why that time you have a specific mask which are on the grade of an N95, but with a specific valvular systems. So by the brand, they come by the name of called Respro masks. Respro masks are specifically meant for people who are engaged in sports activities, who go for joggings, who go for cycling, or anything of any sort of activity.
Let me just repeat. These are Respro masks.
Respro, RESPRO.
RESPRO masks is what you advise. So would you advise our senior citizens to be also wearing these masks when they go out for a for a walk. There's a question that I'm going to ask you about taking a walk, but would you advise our senior citizens to be wearing these masks on a regular basis?
See, first of all, I'll be very honest. I'll tell them the advantage and the benefits of a walk are overshadowed by the amount of harm they will create by breathing this air. So suppose if it's a air like what we had in the Delhi NCR in the last 7 days, if it's an air like that, I would suggest strongly not to go for a walk. It's not recommended. It is absolutely not recommended because the amount of pollutants they are near the surface of the air, and especially in winters, because the air is heavy. So when you walk in the morning hours, it is not recommended for any senior citizen to walk in this kind of an AQI because you think you are causing benefit to your heart by walking, which is recommended for everybody, but that's not the case with pollution. In a pollution, step out only if it is really, really important. If you step out, you have to be wearing a mask with a wall. Without wearing a wall, it is not recommended. No.
So, Doctor, tell me, what is the AQI level? Because AQI levels are now a common thing. There's an app which is available. The Suffer app gives you the AQI level that exists. What is the AQI level that you think is fine for people to take a walk? Because we have people over here who are from across the country, and some places may be more fortunate to not have the AQI levels of an NCR. So is a 192 AQI level, which I saw was in Mumbai a few days back, normal?
See, I'll tell you, if you talk about WHO recommends anything above 50 is not good, but that is something which we in India might not be able to achieve in the near future. So if I say anything around 150 is okay, but beyond 150, it becomes problematic. When you come in the red zone or in the purple zone, definitely outdoor activities are not allowed. Anything above 200, no outdoor activities. Below 200 and between 150, a walk is acceptable as far as possible, but avoid too much of a strenuous outdoor activity like a sports activity or a marathon or something of that sort.
So we are living in a scenario where we keep our windows open, and that's how typically it is, rather than put on our air conditioners. So it's not just going out for a walk. Even if it's sitting at home, you could be breathing in the same polluted air.
Absolutely. What you rightly said just now, it is something like, how does the indoor air come? The indoor air is not an imported air. It is the air which exactly comes from the outdoor itself. And it is well known that indoor air is also equally polluted. But the idea is you have got some possibility of maintaining your indoor air, which you might not be able to contain in an outdoor environment, because the outdoor environment will only be contained by two concepts. Either if it rains or there are heavy currents. If there is no rain and there is no airflow, all those pollutants tend to settle there. But in an indoor environment, you can have air purifying plants. You can have a lot of possibilities where you can control the kind of air which you breathe. That is the only difference. Otherwise, AQI, suppose outside it is, let us say if it is 400, the indoor AQI will be around 300 or 250, but it will not be 50 inside. Indoor will also be very bad.
So would you advise, there are a variety of air purifiers that are available in the market. What kind of an air purifier would you advise? For instance, right now, as you are sitting over here, do you have an air purifier here, or is there a central purifier? How do you manage?
Okay. See, I'll tell you, air purification systems are what would I say? It is an expensive answer to a man-made problem. We try to answer by saying that we have put an air purifier. Air purifiers have got two problems. One thing is that, let's not talk about the cost part. Cost is one part, that you install a purifier, then you have to regularly change the filters, which people don't do. No companies tell you. Companies tell you to buy a purifier and then forget about it. No. If you have not changed the filter of an air purifier, then you're causing more harm to your room than causing a benefit. That's one.
How often would you advise changing a filter?
Okay. Usually, 90% of the air purifiers have a signal which gives you when the air filter is choked. So there is a small light which lights up if the filter is choked, and the purifier tells you that the filter requires to be changed. But as a practice, if you can see after every 2 to 3 months, the filter is dirty, get it cleaned or get it replaced. It is something like your air conditioner filter. Your air conditioner will not function till the filter is clean. Something of very similar concept. Now you asked me which is a good purifier and what kind of purifier. Any air purifier with an ionizer is not recommended. You should never have a purifier which has an ionizer into it. You can have an air purifier where there are HEPA filters, where there are activated carbon filters. These two kind of filters are recommended to filter the kind of air you breathe in.
Sorry, I must just ask you once again. You said one is a carbon filters and the other was
Activated carbon, activated carbon,
activated carbon,
and HEPA filters.
and HEPA filters is what you should be looking for.
You should never have an ionizer.
Okay. And, I know we don't recommend brands, but since we are looking at senior citizens over here and, a service to them, would you recommend any specific brand that people can go in for?
Okay, see, one thing, obviously, it will be wrong on my part to recommend any brand. But if I talk about a good quality air purifier, then Dyson is doing a good job. Dyson has made very good purifiers. At the end of the day, they work well and their filters are easy to maintain and easy to change. So that way,
Dyson is like you have to spend a hell of a lot of money. It's for $45,000.
no, as I told you right from the beginning, air purifiers are not the right solution for this problem. But if they are expensive, a good quality one. Having a poor quality air purifier is as good as not having an air purifier. It is just going to give you a false sense of security. It is something like wearing a bad quality of mask. You might have a good quality mask, you might have a very bad quality mask. I personally recommend, if you use a product, quality and the capacity. Capacity is more important than that. For example, if you have a system that if you want to put an air purifier in a room, or if you want to put an air purifier in a living room or a drawing room, so there are two different kinds. So whenever you're buying one, make sure you specifically ask for that. It is something like if you sit in a big hall and you put a small AC there, it will not work. Similarly, if you put a small air purifier in a bigger hall, it will not work. So specifically, whenever you're buying an air purifier, always tell them this is the size of the room I have, and this is the purifier I'm going to put in that room. So always invest in very, very wisely a good quality one and a good capacity one.
Doctor, one of the questions which often get asked, and this was a question that came in also, was that the problem of bad air quality in our country, and specifically in a place like Delhi, is only for a few weeks, because once it starts raining, once you get the November showers or the December showers, the quality improves considerably. So it's a big enough of an investment. It's a very high investment for something that is required perhaps for a month and a half or a month perhaps.
This is same thing, that's a repetition of what I'm saying. I told you air purifiers can never be the replacement. We have to look into the root cause. The root causes are the particulate matter. Never allow free dust on the roads. Plant more trees, have more grass around so that it catches that dust and those particles to fly around. Those, when you go in the morning and people are grooming the streets with those jhadus, and that dust stays in the environment, and that is not affected by your rain, that is not affected by your change of season. It is happening every day in your society. So the idea is to change those systems. Why do you go when you go abroad, you don't see dust? It is because not because the country is taking any specific measure. It is because everybody is taking part into that. They put a lot of grass on their pavements. All the pavements are either concrete or grass. It is not left with dry dust. No construction activity is allowed without completely being covered. Here, the whole construction starts with just a small, jittery kind of a shade they put outside. No, the construction activities are not supposed to have like this. The idea of covering a construction activity is to avoid the stone cutting dust to go around. So, yes, After a rain, your AQI will drastically come down. But even if you check in the month of check in the month of March, February, April, your AQI of Delhi NCR or any big city will be equally bad. You might have gaseous particles. You might not be having to the tune of thousands, but it will still be 200 or 300 very easy.
So would you recommend to our senior citizens here, and there are a lot of people who are also watching this session later, would you recommend that they should have an air purifier uh, on through the year, given the fact that there is pollution levels are reasonably high?
See, the idea is two. You can have two kind of concepts in indoors. One is you can have air purifying plants, which are not expensive. You don't need any filter to be changed. You don't need any electricity to be run. They are the safest bet for you. The other thing is if you have an environment which is closed and you are old, you are not having too much of an activity to go out, you're going to stay home and you're going to live in the same environment for a longer period of time. Yes, air purifiers are going to have a good benefit till we take stern steps to stop this pollution happening and people stop needing the air purifiers. But till that happens, you can't allow our elderly people to breathe this kind of an air.
So you're saying that the air purifier plants, you said.
Yes.
Which are these plants that you recommend?
There are a lot of air purifying plants, which the information is widely available. If I can name a few, something like Erica palm, a snake plant, money plant, they're all supposed to cleanse the air of your room. So, there is a specific office building in Delhi, where the person has only and only in the entire building invested massively into plants. His entire office is full of plants, only specific plants which are meant for air purification. And when you check in AQI in that area, it is 300, but the AQI in that building never crosses 100.
So you strongly recommend that, but obviously just a small pot with a plant will not help, right?
No. There are specific numbers. The plants have to be kept in various numbers. One plant in a room will not work, obviously. And there is no specific category made that this plant, this many number will work for a specific room. But when you start keeping more and more plants, you can have more plants in your living room. You can have more plants in your drawing room. You can have more plants in your hallway. Subsequently, and there are easily available meters which will give you this is the AQI at present in your hallway, in your room. You will understand whether you need more plants or not.
So plants and purifiers, and well, that's a and the other thing which again I find people saying is that, well, you may have a purifier in the house and you may keep things in order and you may have some plants as well, but when you do step out, and when you do step out into your car and your Uber, Ola, the pollution levels are fairly high. So at some point of the other, you will experience the elements.
Exactly. That is precisely what I'm trying to make my point right from the beginning. Is the bigger problem is still unanswered. Air purification systems are no way an answer to this bigger problem. You, me, any NGO or any government has to be completely on foot that saying yes, pollution is a problem. We have to believe on that and take every step possible to control this. One person cannot take it further. I'm telling you very clearly, the kind of problems we have in our cities today, rows and rows, thousands of trees are being cut every day. In Gurgaon or Delhi, you've got a beautiful forest area called the Aravali Biodiversity, and there was a plan to cut through the forest and make a road through that. But good amount of NGOs which are doing good work in Delhi, like I Am Gurgaon and all sort of good NGOs, they really stood against it and they did not allow that thing to happen. These are important steps. We are not realizing what rampant pace we are moving towards a situation where we will not have a good air to breathe at all. Exactly what you said. You can have an air purifier at your home, but the moment you step out, you can't stay in your house the whole day. You have to go to your office. You might have to go to a school or anything of that sort. ultimately you will get exposed to the ill effects of pollution, and everybody is affected.
Doctor, I must ask you this question. Now, you've been in you've been living in Delhi. You know the way things are. Every year, this discussion happens. On television, in newspapers, and there's a lot of hullabaloo about pollution levels, and nothing has been happening. Right? Even last year, there was a fair amount of noise about the pollution levels, and nothing happens. And the way it is, I don't see personally that it happening in you know in my lifetime for sure. I'm not very sure whether it's going to happen in your lifetime, but I'm not very sure whether it will happen in your 5-year-old lifetime. Because the way our governments are, the way as you said, this is a man-made problem. So given the fact that this is what exists, right? We need to work around the problem because the governments will not change. The pollutants who are there will not change. So we need to do something about it.
Absolutely. I'm not naming any government. It could be A, B, X, Y, Z, whatever.
Right.
They
Yeah.
all they're all the same. The idea is, there have been steps. I'm not saying the steps are not there, but it is not to the tune the way they should be. For example, the push to the EV policy, the electric vehicles and all that. You know, there are a lot of controversies around it. We are moving towards an electric vehicle. The idea is that we do not want pollution, but do we realize from where does this electricity come? India is a thermal based country. We are not a nuclear based country as of now. So this electricity source is still thermal. So at the end of the day, you still create pollution. Yes, you remove this everyday cars going around, but at the end of the day, your EVs will get powered by the electricity which is coming from a thermal plant. That's one. So there are so many things happening. See, the government is trying to do their bit, but I feel it has to be done on a very, very major scale. Plantations have to be major, be very clear, and it has to be a very clear law. The National Green Tribunal has to step into it very strongly that what cannot be done. For example, if there is a garden, there is a garden is not the right word. If the parks, there are forests, they cannot be allowed to cut. As far as possible, we should all work around in a way that these are the future. Every kind of a solution will be found in these plantings. If you plant trees, you will have rain. If you plant trees, they will uh, curtail your pollution. Whatever you do, trees are the solution for that. And we strongly believe that. Fossil fuels have to be cut down. We have to see alternate measures. For example, you must have already heard the stubble burning issue in Delhi NCR. Stubble burning is a problem. I am not against farmers. See, they also find, but we have to see solution for the stubble. How do we manage the stubble? We should educate them not to burn the stubble, rather than find ways to remove the stubble in a proper way, so that tomorrow the farmers are not forced to burn them, and we face those problems.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. I've kind of hogged most of the time with you with asking questions. Of course, based on some of the questions that I received, we have a question from Mr. Mr. Ravindran Nair, who is 78 and he's from Trivandrum. And he asked, please inform me about how breathing exercises are being done through nose outlets. How much time should I take uh, for two nose outlets? And obviously he's referring to in the current scenario.
Okay. See, I'll tell you, breathing exercises are very important, but there is one thing which you have to remember. As I told you in the beginning of my talk, when you walk, when you're normally sitting, you breathe around 25,000 times in a day. But when you get engaged in an exercise, when you get engaged in an activity, this number can almost double, or at least become 40 times than what you are actually doing. So the idea is, if you have a bad air around you and you do deep breathing exercises, you inhale so much amount of pollutant inside you, which is more harmful than anybody. But since you are in a state of Kerala, which I feel is not that polluted and not the kind of AQI which we are living in, you still have a liberty to do these exercises very freely around. And I hope we also come to that state in a way.
Kerala is God's own country. So, but
Yes,
unfortunately, it has also faced some nature's fury in recent times and over the years. That's unfortunate. Um,
absolutely.
so, the other question is from him again as to how much, you know, so most seniors, and you mentioned this about not going in the morning to exercise. So, what would you advise? What kind of exercise can a person do sitting in the house, given the fact that it's not advisable to do all of this?
Right. See, you can do yoga, you can do stretching, you can do all the exercises which are considered with deep breathing and prolonged expiration. One thing which you have to remember, lot of times people will tell you to do deep breathing, but nobody tells you the more important part as you grow old is to expire. It is not to inspire. See, there are two things. I'll take a small minute here. Inspiration is something like taking the deep breath inside, and expiration is when you leave the air out. So, when you grow old, your lungs are fit enough to inspire, but they become weak not to empty out the stale air. What we do the mistake, we keep deep breathing, we keep deep breathing, we keep deep breathing, so we overinflate our lungs. That is a mistake which we do. Same problem comes in COPD patients, same problem comes in asthmatic patients, same problem comes in people who are very old and very weak. So we have to train ourselves for a small exercise called purse lip breathing, which you can easily Google for yourself. It's something called purse lip breathing. You have to squeeze your lips in a way like this so that you are able to exhale the extra stale air from your lung, because your lungs have one fixed capacity. Till you remove the stale air, a fresh air is not going to go inside. It is something like a balloon. So that is the idea.
So, can I ask you to just demonstrate this exercise, because people can start doing it from right away?
Yes, it is called purse lip breathing. So you
Right.
have to purse your lips in a way. That means you exhale more. If you normally sit and exhale, you'll not be able to. If you purse your lip, you'll be able to see for yourself. Slowly, but for a longer time. So
And
it is called prolonged expiration, but it is not forceful expiration. It is a prolonged expiration.
and for how many times should you be doing it? How much time in the day?
This is something like a not a natural way of breathing. So it will not come naturally to you. You have to remind yourself whenever you're sitting idle, do it for 10-15 times, then again do your normal activity. Then again, whenever you remind yourself, do it for 10-15 times. Because natural way of breathing, you are not supposed to understand your breathing pattern. You just breathe and you keep working. That is the way God has made you. But personally, breathing is something you have to remind your brain that I have to exhale out as you grow old.
Doctor, there's a question about air conditioners. Air conditioners, as you mentioned also earlier, have filters. Now, if you have an AC on, are these also uh, kind of air purifiers?
Not to a complete extent, but yes, to some extent, because when you clean your filter, you actually find them loaded with black kind of a soot. That's all the kind of dust which is there in your air. But these filters are very raw. There are specific filters which are placed in air purifiers. Nowadays, the latest air conditioners have air purification filters within them, but older ACs did not have air purification filters with them. One thing is again, ACs or air purifiers, they recirculate the same air which you're breathing in your room. So if you keep breathing the same air, it is the same air which goes through the filter and comes out back. So AC also has to have a capacity and a good quality filter to function both as a cooling device and a purification system.
And of course, the fact is that uh, we are in a season where temperature levels have gone down, so people do not always put on the air conditioners, and the air conditioners do not all air conditioners have a heating system in them.
Yes.
uh, And doctor, in case one does have any issues that are there, for instance, I heard someone saying that, the best way to ward off uh, 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 the problems of the air pollution is uh, wear, of course, a mask and pop in some anti-allergy tablets. Is that something that you would recommend, just in case one is feeling, exhausted, or if one has stepped out, one has not had there's no other solution, no other alternative but to get out. What does one do if one is feeling, there's some wheezing and so on and so forth?
Okay. See, one thing is, as a doctor, it's not good on my part to recommend over-the-counter medicines. That's not good. But if I tell you something, everybody will not be directly affected by allergies or wheezing. It is about your genetic makeup. For example, there are three people in a society. Example, two of them get affected by pollution. One person says, I have no problem. So there is a blood test called IgE. IgE level tells us if we are reacting to the pollutants around us. If the IgE level is high, then the anti-allergic medicines definitely have a help. Something like an Allegra or anything of this over-the-counter levocetirizine or cetirizine, all these medicines help. But if you do not have an allergy tendency, if you do not have an IgE level which is high, unnecessary popping antihistaminics or anti-allergic medicines have no meaning. All the more you are putting yourself on the side effects of these medicines, which I would not recommend. Now, your next part of the question of wheezing. Wheezing happens when these pollutants and allergens they start affecting your lung. So in this scenario, you should always consult a doctor. A wheezing can be a problematic issue, especially in old people. You can have wheezing in asthma. You can have wheezing in bronchitis. You can have wheezing with cardiac problems also. So everything what is wheezing is not asthma. That's a dictum which you have to remember. So if you actually hear wheezing, never ignore it. See your doctor, whoever doctor you have. You might be having a doctor in your family. You might be having a doctor in your friend circle. Just talk to them and discuss with the problem, and they will guide you properly on that.
Doctor, we have a question from Sumechan Jain, who asks, is living on the seventh floor, does it have the same effect as living on the ground floor?
Okay. See, what I was telling you earlier, that when you are in a cold environment or in an environment where there is heavy air, all the pollutants they tend to settle down near the surface of the ground. The more higher you go, the air becomes light and the wind currents are still there. So the only advantage of living higher is the pollutants are not accumulated, they get dissipated. Seventh might be a little low floor for that. All these things happen when you cross the 10th or 15th floor. Seventh is almost there as far as the ground is concerned because air pocket is fairly wide. So I would not say seventh floor, but if you go 10, 15 floor up, then yes, some amount of pollutants and particulate matters are warded off by staying in that level. That's the only difference.
And in Delhi, you do have a lot of apartments which are on offices which are in the basement, which are perhaps worse than.
Worse than, the biggest problem in basements is the amount of seepage and the moist walls they have, and then they grow fungal spores. So these fungal spores are something which you don't see and you keep inhaling them. When you come to a doctor, they tell you, that you've got this fungal problem. They say, how come how I got a fungal problem? Because they were inhaling these fungal spores all throughout. You must have heard in COVID, people were coming with black fungus and whatnot. Black fungus is such a normal thing which is there everywhere. It is there on your surfaces, it is there on your walls. It just needs basic moisture. When you breathe black fungus, it goes inside your body, it stays there, does not cause any harm. Everybody, almost everybody has got black fungus inside their body. But when your immunity level goes down, that time it becomes activated. That is what is happening in COVID. When COVID hits you, your immunity is gone for a six. That is where these earlier inhaled spores they become activated. That is the problem of basements.
Doctor, thank you very much for answering all our questions. Is there any final word of advice you would give to various people? Of course, not everybody here is from Delhi NCR. There are people who are from uh, Bangalore, Mumbai, Coimbatore, Kerala. Is there an advice that you would give to all our senior citizen members of the audience?
Right. See, the audience is as we know, the audience is a senior group, so they are more experienced in life than what I am right now. But I would say that one thing is for sure: the kind of studies which we have looked into, it is your duty as a senior to inculcate a habit of tree plantations in your kids, in your grandchildren, in everybody, so that for the generations to come, it is a habit within them that we do not create pollution. We look into everything what we do in everyday life, that we are not causing pollution by small things in our house. We clean it in such a way that we do not do dry dusting. We try to minimum use of automobiles as far as possible. We do shared automobiles, and if the electrification is happening, go for electrification. All these things, so that for the years to come, for the future to come, we have a clean air, and we do not have a webinar on discussing for the ill effects of pollution.
I really hope we don't have to do this next year. Doctor, we have a question from someone it wasn't regarding pollution, so I did not ask it earlier, but this
No,
is from Mr. Jagdish Jagtiani, who's age 67 years. His question is academic in nature. He says, many specialists of chest respiratory issues are also dealing with sleep disorders. Are these two issues associated, that we find the specialists dealing in both these issues?
okay. Yes. As you had given in my introduction, nowadays the specialty is called respiratory and sleep medicine. Why? Because right, everything from what you breathe, sleep is again your breathing phenomena. When you breathe well, you sleep well. So the idea of sleep apnea is when people snore. People think snoring is a good habit. If you snore, you're having a good sleep. That's not true. That's not true, because when you snore, your upper airway or the windpipe is almost choking. And if it chokes to a bigger extent, you have got sleep apnea. That is where the people have got sleep problems. So sleep is dealt by two specialties. One is called the respiratory medicine, which we deal, and the other specialty is the neurological. There are certain problems of sleep which are controlled by brain. So that particular specialty is dealt by the neuro doctors, and anything else we deal with it. We deal with sleep studies. We also take care of the problems of sleep. A lot of people will come to me that they've got daytime sleepiness. While driving a car, they doze off. While reading a newspaper, they can fall asleep. These are dangerous problems. So when they come to me, then we do a sleep study on them, and then we understand and we give them a solution for the same.
We will come to you once again, Dr. Goyal, to speak about sleep. But those of you who are there, who have, who are regulars, that we had Dr. Lancelot Pinto once earlier from Mumbai, who had spoken about that. So you can go to the webinar archives and access that. And we will come to Dr. Goyal again in a few months and ask him to not talk about pollution, but talk about sleep and how one can sleep well.
Yes.
Dr. Goyal, once again, thank you for being here. And thank
Thank
you, everyone here, for being part of Health Live at Seniors Today. We will be back once again next Saturday at 5 p.m. For those of you here, we will be having the video of this session on Seniors Today, the website, on Monday. So please visit that. We will also have the takeaways written, and our takeaways are written by a qualified doctor who watches the entire session and then writes the takeaways. So you will have the best medical advice coming from there. Thank you once again, Dr. Goyal. I'm going to just take 2 minutes more of yours, Dr. Goyal. For those of you who are still here, just remember tomorrow is the finale, the season 5 finale of Seniors Have Talent. And Dr. Goyal, I must tell you this, that every week we have senior citizens age 60 plus who come and sing. And tomorrow we've had 5 seasons already. This is the 5th season, and we are having the finale tomorrow. 24 people from across the country, and one from Netherlands is also there, who will be
Wonderful.
participating in this session tomorrow. And season 6 is starting from December 5th. We are also starting with Seniors Have Talent in English. So that's coming up, and you can go to the our website, and in a minute from now, we will have the link to both the Seniors Have Talent season 6 as well as the English there. I must also tell you right now that we are, as we speak, closing the November 15th issue of Seniors Today. And Dr. Goyal, I had sent you a few copies of the magazine at your WhatsApp address, and you must go through that. But I'm just going to put up request our producer to put up the cover of this issue. This cover is, this is 50 years of the Bangladesh War, the Indo-Pak War. And on the eve of the 1971 Indo-Pak War, we have a special tribute to Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. It's not all about profiles and everything. We also have some fun here. We have an article about James Bond. This is his movie is just released, so you have the article has all about the bonds which have played the Bond role. We have had the Bond women, something about the Bond women, because they are also major pulls of movies. They have the Bond baddies and the Bond gizmos and all of that. So as always, Seniors Today magazine is going to be there on the website. It is available free of cost. It is going to be there on the 15th on seniorstoday.in. If you have subscribed to the magazine, if you are a subscriber, once again, which is free of cost, you will of course get a notification of that. Thank you once again, Dr. Goyal. Thank you for putting through these things. And one last thing, you've heard some of these things earlier. We are, if you want us to reach out to more senior citizens, do look at helping us do that. You can go to the contribute section of the Seniors Today website, and you will get an idea of how you can contribute and help us achieve our objectives. Thank you once again, Dr. Goyal, and thank you folks at the Artemis Hospital in Gurugram for this session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.